Get ready for adventure. Islands of it, man. From the studios to Volcano Bay. This is the Universal Joint, a podcast devoted to all things Universal with your host, Jim Hill and Dustin Fuhs.
Welcome to the Universal Joint Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill. I know, it's been a while since my co-host Dustin Fuhs and I last did a show, but there's a very good reason for that. Dustin was down in Orlando earlier this month scoping out the competition. So what is going on at Disney? What did we see?
Well, it's hot.
Ah, there's a surprise.
Yeah, it was fairly reasonable with the weather. It was consistently hot throughout the day. So as soon as you had your shower first thing in the morning, that shower stuck with you, which was great. Lots of great food, lots of fun news coming out, not just that with Disney and the gondolas and Star Wars and everything going on that side, but the theme park industry down in Florida is just booming right now. The conversations that are being had in public spaces like the Orlando Premium Outlets and all the hotels and people are talking about everything coming. And it was great to hear people going to Universal, riding Hagrids, and not mentioning the lines. They got off the ride and be like, you know what, that was worth it. So it was very cool to see that. Now, I didn't have the chance to make it over to Universal on this trip. Business kind of got in the way. There was a day that I had planned, and then torrential downpours were scheduled the entire day. And I figured that we're going to be back there in a couple months anyway. So instead, I wrote a lot of POVs on YouTube to see everything that happened down there.
Okay, speaking of Hagrid's, though, those folks who actually get to ride it are coming off and giving stellar reviews since this thing opened back on June 13th. But it hasn't actually been the smoothest first month of operations. Have you been following what's been going on with the whole we're going to be down for maintenance thing? Or?
Yeah, they first started out with the mornings saying, we're going to take our time in the mornings to make sure that we have that full maintenance time to really fix what was wrong. And then they went to the evenings. And then they're like, okay, we're going to have people ride the experience whenever it opens, but we're closing the lines earlier on in the evenings to allow for a proper maintenance time as well.
It's interesting you bring out earlier who had mentioned the torrential rainstorm, because that did factor into the decision, because face it, it's Central Florida in the summer. 3 o'clock, you can almost time it on, your watch that there's going to be a torrential rainstorm in the mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
So opening this thing at noon just wasn't going to work, or at least, not from an operational point of view.
And you and I both have seen all the conversations going on online, people getting halfway through the line and then having the ride go down for not just 10, 15, 20 minutes. We're talking about 1, 2, up to 3 hours.
But again, to be fair here, though, that one of the problems about having a family-friendly coaster that rolls around 7 acres is that if there's a thunder and lightning storm within 10 miles, a lot of attractions that go outside will shut down or, will, slow down their load procedure for that exact same reason.
Absolutely.
I'm genuinely looking forward to checking out this attraction, if only for the notion. I mean, I live out in the woods, so the notion of being able to roll through an environment where they planted 1,200 trees that are all going to grow up and create the forbidden forest. I mean, I'm excited about that aspect of this ride, but from day one, when they announced that this was just like Dragon Challenge and Dueling Dragons, that this was going to be an outdoor coaster, it's just sort of like,
Yeah, we called it.
Yeah, so. But anyway, the thing they tweeted out on the 10th, given the popularity of Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure and its current wait time, we will close the attraction prior to park close so we can begin our routine daily maintenance to ensure the experience continues to be great. I don't want to hammer on these folks, especially when you consider it's designed to have capacity.
Absolutely.
7 coasters on the track at any one time. But in a weird sort of way, Universal caught a break because, of course, if you ask people what's the big story in themed entertainment this summer, it's the light crowds at Disneyland.
Yeah.
How many stories did you see just over the past week where it's starting to bubble up in the mainstream media about, is there something wrong with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge? And it's like, well, no, that Disney decided to do this whole deluxe pass holders out till August or thereabouts. Mm-hmm. And if Galaxy's Edge had opened in California and there were no issues, the park was full, and
both attractions opened.
And that's exactly, the themed entertainment press would have fallen on Hagrid like wolves.
Absolutely.
And just beat that attraction up. So if I were Universal and the guys particularly working in operations and maintenance, I would think of the August 29th opening of Galaxy's Edge in Orlando as my drop dead. You have to have Hagrid up and running at full capacity the full day by that turn, because God help them if Orlando opens up and it operates flawlessly, and they already know in advance that Rise of the Resistance isn't open. By the way, did you see that December 5th?
Yeah, December, yeah. And then January for Disneyland.
Yeah, January 17th. So unfortunately, the folks coming to our event will miss it by a couple of days, but maybe it'll soft open. If you look at the how troubled Hagrid's has been this summer, but we pivot to the West Coast now, to Universal Studios Hollywood, to the opening of Jurassic World, the ride. And, geez, that's been relatively flawless. I mean, yeah, they've had a couple of days, when they were soft opening, where they had to throw people off because there were some technical issues and that sort of thing. But I'm sure you've been YouTubing rides through that thing.
Yeah, and talking with people who have actually been there. So I have friends on the West Coast, and a lot of them are annual pass holders. So you get a chance to, hop on Skype and just ask for their opinions. And what I'm seeing is that a lot of the guests that go into Universal Studios Hollywood, because there's so many other things that they can do, and it's not being publicized as it's open, all's going to be incredible. There's so much more that you can do within that Jurassic World area, from Isla Nublar to the dining to the Raptor encounter. There's a lot of stuff that goes in.
They had been doing the Raptor encounter for a better part of a couple of years now. But when they came back, not only did they sort of reconfigure sort of extend the Jurassic World experience out into the surrounding land a bit, sort of creating, placemaking, so to speak. But they also really went in heavy to this character interaction. Now, we not only have Blue the Raptor that people can meet with, but correct me if I'm wrong, there's 2 baby dinosaurs now?
Yeah, so similar to what happened back when Jurassic Park opened in Florida, there's, I like to classify them as streetmosphere. There are all these characters that kind of build the ambiance of you being in this world. So they have team members that are basically showcasing the next genetic creations of this corporation that runs Jurassic World. And it's really cute. The kids get to go up and interact. And
but again, these are puppets that people are carrying.
They're handheld. So it's almost like seeing a ventriloquist, where you can tell that the team member who's portraying this character, is kind of using their hand to, make everything move. And the baby Triceratops is adorable, and the baby raptor. There's a lot of these types of things that are going on. But I think the big thing that really popped out, that kind of shocked a lot of people on day one, was Juliet, the Triceratops. So this is very similar to a living character initiative, kind of like Lucky the Dinosaur out on the other coast with Disney World and Disneyland. But the fact that they have a character like a Triceratops just walking around, guests can go up and actually, touch this character. Granted, if they touch the horns, they get a little bit of a stern talking to, but that's not the end of the world. Like, to have this conversation and actually tell your kids that's a dinosaur, they may not understand that Jurassic Park and Jurassic World aren't real, but they're like, I get to go to school tomorrow and tell my friends that I got to pet a Triceratops. Isn't that the coolest thing?
For those of us who remember, Triceratops encounter at Jurassic Park at Universal's Islands of Adventure. I mean, it was kind of modeled after the Ollivander's Wand Shop experience, in that one guest would be allowed into the enclosure and would get to pet the Triceratops and that sort of thing. And by the way, one of the reasons that thing was as cool as it was, Dustin, is that was Canadian expertise, the technology there that powered the three animatronic Triceratopses that they used on the various different huts. But that technology was actually built by the guys who built the space arm for the shuttle. I just remember, when I was down there doing press and chatting with the folks, they were very, and this is Canadian expertise. Those guys are good.
And you're like, I'm from New Hampshire. I'm pretty close to that.
Yeah, well, we're close to expertise. I have business cards that say that. Anyway, speaking of the animatronics, let's talk about the new opening scene.
Sure.
The Mosmosor Aquarium, which replaced the Ultrasol Lagoon, which on paper should have been, a mind-blowing thing. And, the idea is in fact, they still do it. The boat comes around the curve and you're in the middle of that lagoon. And when they opened this attraction back in June of 96, there was a 5-story tall animatronic standing in the middle of that lagoon. The Ultrasaur, and then you had the Ultrasaur baby, I think, on shore. Universal went all out. They hired Sarcos. This is a company that was formed by a bunch of professors from the University of Utah. They started working with animatronics. In fact, they partnered with Disney. They in 85, 86, they put a Mr. Lincoln in that was based on the Sarcos system. That I remember talking with Mark Davis, the guy who did the original Mr. Lincoln, and he went to see the show, and it's like, they gave Lincoln too much coffee. He's moving too much. But on the other hand, the next figure that they did, everybody loved, the Wicked Witch of the West.
Yes.
So again, this was Universal's thinking. We want to go for the guys who are best in the business. So let's get Sarcos and let's have them do our dinosaurs. June of 1990, Universal Studios Florida opens up, and from day one, they can't operate the Jaws ride the way they want, because it turns out these very sophisticated animatronic figures can't get wet.
That's hilarious.
It was one of the things, in hindsight, there should have been that discussion in the meeting. And the interesting thing is when they shut it down and they then retooled Jaws the ride and brought it back in the spring of 93, the very, very bright gentleman who redid the attraction was like, okay, hang on. He drives down to Long Beach Harbor and he goes to, the longshoremen there and tells them, show me everything that you've got, heavy equipment that has to work in water constantly. And so, they walk around to the dock areas and all of that. And basically what he then does is gets the catalog and looks at every piece of heavy-duty machinery that has to operate in seawater, and then looks at it and tries to figure out, how can I put a shark head on that? And that's how we got the ride that operated all of that time till we got Diagon Alley. And what I don't understand is, why didn't they talk to one another? They're designing the Jurassic Park ride as they're making the movie.
Yeah.
The movie comes out in 94. This attraction opens 2 years later. They clearly have to hear what's going on in Orlando about, oh dear Lord, our Jaws attraction and how much it's costing to redo. And boy, these things don't operate in water. So what do? They put a giant Ultrasaur in the middle of the water.
Well, and you and I have talked about it on previous shows about how the filming of Jurassic Park had all of those issues with the T-Rex. How as soon as it would get wet during those amazing scenes that still, they still hold up all of these years later. But the behind the scenes, the fact that the actual machines themselves would shake. And they would have to figure out a way to, make sure that it wasn't going to interrupt the next take. I think that's a big issue.
When Stan Winston and Steven Spielberg were talking about doing these scenes, Stan, was mentioning we're doing the supersized animatronic, and there's going to be a lot of hoses coming off of this thing, and we're going to have to frame our shots really carefully. And can we shoot this at night? And can we shoot this in rain? Because that hides a multitude of sins.
Yeah.
But the very thing you're talking about, it just got heavy. It just got wet.
One of the funny things when you talk about nighttime and getting wet, that was one of the big promotional pieces of the new Jurassic World ride as you went into the Mosasaur aquarium, because you would be able to, as you turn that corner, you see that poor shark. But, you know, he did his best. But as the weather outside changes, they would change the screens. And I've seen both so far. I've seen them running nighttime with daytime screens. And I've also seen them test some of the rain features. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think the response that people are getting from that scene is that it's another screen that Universal has used, but they did it right. So I think that's one of the points that people have started to make on social media and on all of the POVs and all of the folks who have been on the ride. They're like, you know what? It actually worked out.
The introductory scene with the Ultrasaur kind of immediately took you out of the ride because it was clearly this mechanical thing that was trying to look natural. And also, how many times we all gone on the ride and the male or the adult Mosasaurus, all 5 stories of it is locked in place because it's broken. Whereas this thing, the Mosasaur aquarium, it's fluid, it's lovely. It has, you know, the creature moves from one side of the tank to the other.
But they have had screen issues. So we've actually seen it with half of the screens not working. Oh, and obviously that happens. That's an operational thing that comes up. And especially this close to the soft open, and, you know, it's summertime and we understand that. But it is really funny to see folks on this attraction as they're seeing this entire story, because the ride is so much slower. So because of that, they're actually spending more time in these show scenes and able to point out these little details.
Is it really?
It
slower?
Is. As you're going through, the water is actually, and I don't know the percentages, but there's been a number of side-by-side comparisons done on YouTube, and some really talented videographers have gone out there and kind of put them together, and it's very noticeable.
That's interesting. I did not know that. Getting back to Juliet for a second, sure. I don't know how many of you folks are aware of, there's a show that they do at Universal Studios Japan called Dinosaur Panic, where literally folks are in the Jurassic Park section of Universal Studio Japan, and first they bring out one raptor, then they bring out another raptor, then they bring out a third raptor, and then they bring out their park's Triceratops, and the raptors begin to talk to one another and seem to be getting ready to make a move on a Triceratops. And then to add to the noise and the fun, at the very edge of the land, there's a piece of, you know, the fence we know from like the T-Rex paddock. And who comes out, you know, with a giant puppet head of the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3. And you have all of this noise. And the interesting thing is the dinosaurs are literally in the middle of the crowd. And you have these cast members who are trying to sort of wrangle these, obviously, people in animal costumes and that sort of thing. But all I could think of looking at it is like, wow, no, this will never come to the States. And Universal's lawyers will never allow this. And so to see Juliet here and to have Blue here, I'm just wondering, you know, looking ahead to what's going on with the Jurassic Park redo over at Islands, whether or not, you know, we're going to get, even just get Juliet, but wouldn't it be cool to get every hour or so, or, you know, a little taste of Dinosaur Panic?
Can I quote Mr. Jim Hill on this and say, come back later, try again?
Magic 8 Ball, yes. Now that we are talking again about Universal Orlando, next month, August, is annual pass holder month, is that correct? Or?
Yeah, the pass holder appreciation events that have actually been going on for years. It's usually in August going through until the end of September, and it's back. So for annual pass holders of Universal Studios Florida, all you have to do is head on to the official website, and there's registration actually for a special thing. So there's 2 aspects to this event. You have the Universal Pass Holder Appreciation Days, which is every day between August 12th and September 30th. but you actually have a pass holder appreciation night that is August 18th from 8 p.m. until midnight. Now, you do have to register for the event. It looks like registration opens 8 p.m. on July the 12th, so I hope you guys got your passes. But there's tons of stuff going on. You know, I would go through the list of every single thing, but the highlights for me for the night is that there's plenty of experiences, plenty of stuff that is only available for that evening, lots of character experiences and fun stuff. And I'm sure that people who have gone to past appreciation nights really, they want to go again. Now, one of the things that I did want to point out is that in previous years, there was actually multiple nights that they had this experience, actually as recent as 2017, where they had 2 after park events. So to go from 2 down to 1 in 2018, and then this year also having the 1, that just shows that they want to put either a lot of emphasis on the one night, or previous pass holder nights were just, they had that split in attendance. So if they do one night, that's awesome. So one of the things to keep in mind with the event is that you actually have to go on to Eventbrite and register. You get your lanyard, you get your passes, everything is provided in advance. But throughout that entire month when the pass holder appreciation events are going on, there's some really cool discounts that you can take advantage of, from things like the Blue Man Group to...
Well, I'm looking here. What's annual pass holders get $3 off admission to Universal Cinemark for after 6 showings, the pass holder and 1 guest.
Which, that's pretty awesome.
I guess if somebody's going to spring for a ticket to Hobbs and Shaw, the Fast and Furious spin-off, that's happening next month as well, August 2nd, right?
Yeah, and then, it's, I think one of the big things to keep in mind with the summertime is that there's a lot of these events that go on, and not just Disney and Universal, but just keep an eye out to the social medias. The Twitter accounts are highly active, and actually one of my favorite things to do is to head on to the Universal Orlando Annual Pass Holder Facebook group. And you not only get the official, hey, this is what's going on, but you also get some really passionate fans that are really good at helping you trip plan. So if you are thinking about becoming an annual pass holder with Universal, you know, these perks are always a fun little addition, on top of course, getting to go to the parks.
This year there is 1 annual pass holder appreciation night versus 3 back in 2017.
Yeah, 2017 had 2, August 27th and August 30th.
Halloween Horror Nights this year starts earlier than it ever has, September 6th. I wonder how much of that is, you know, cutting it back to the single night is related to the fact that they have to set dress in the park that much earlier. I don't know if that's what's really going on here, but just, you know, kind of wanted to throw that out there.
Well, and if you go back to some of the past years, there's been different promotions that they've used through the Appreciation Month. Everything from ticket discounts to special Caribbean events at Sapphire Falls back in 2016. There was a quick service discount with the dining plan where you would actually, and this is back in 2017, where they would actually give you buy 1 universal dining plan and you got the second one 50% off. I think when we're looking at the current pass holder experiences, that they're trying to do things throughout the year, and there may be discounts that come and go as well, like the pass holder lounge.
Didn't they give the annual pass holders early access to Fast and Furious Supercharged?
Yep. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a perk or a punishment.
Yeah, so that's the annual pass holder stuff. There's a lot of things that go on within the parks, and I'm a big fan of just, you know, heading over to the social media, seeing what kind of fun you can get into.
We mentioned the Hobbs and Shaw thing debuting on August 2nd. I was told by somebody at the studio that they're trying to get a teaser trailer ready for Fast and Furious 9 to throw that in front of Hobbs and Shaw, because obviously this is the first real spin-off, and it's possible they could pull this off. They began principal photography of the latest Fast and Furious back in June 24th to be exact. Mm-hmm. We got John C. Sienna joining the
John
cast. I guess
Cena, come on, he's
Cena.
a wrestler. He's the basically the former.
I'm sorry, I
poster
live in
boy.
the woods. What do you want from me? John Cena, who obviously is sort of stepping in to fill, because Dwayne Johnson has moved on to this Hobbs and Shaw franchise. We also have Charlize Theron and Helen Mirren reprising their roles from Fast and Furious 8. They have been shooting on location in New York, LA, and for the first time in the franchise's history, they're in Thailand. And, Fast and Furious loves to get to these exotic locations. I don't know if you remember in Furious 7 when they shot in Abu Dhabi, and I believe they had the car jump out of the Needle, that ridiculously tall skyscraper.
Yeah, the Burj Khalifa.
There we go.
See, when you live in Toronto, you have to know which buildings surpass the CN Tower.
All right. Well, by the way, folks, when we get back from our commercial break, we're going to talk about something else that Universal almost produced in that part of the world. And that's Universal Studios Dubailand, the theme park and resort that actually did begin construction out in the desert of Dubai, but was never actually completed.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana.
I know it's July, it's hot, but I just looked at the temperature in Abu Dhabi. It's 1 o'clock in the morning right now there, and it's 97 degrees. Not only that, it's 63% humidity, so just be happy you're indoors with a little air conditioning. But anyway, Dustin, what do you know about Dubailand? Did this ever come up? Or
Dubailand is on my list of places to go to. I think as a theme park fan and even as just a world traveler, there are certain things that are going on in Dubai that are just epic. And I think when you mentioned Dubailand, I'm like, yes, please. I can't wait to talk about this.
You have a part of the world that, has founded its fame and fortune on, obviously, petrochemical. And, as we see the rise of electric cars and that sort of thing, it's kind of interesting that they took a look at the future and said, okay, we need to transition. And they decided that the way they were going to transition was by becoming a destination, and not just any destination. The October of 2003, the Dubailand project gets announced, and this is a $64 billion. And again, that's 2003 billions. That's real money, Dustin.
Yep.
And they're planning on building a 107 square mile entertainment complex. That is more than twice the size of Walt Disney World, with the largest collection of theme parks on the planet. And if it had all gone according to plan, Dubailand, with its attractions and experience world section, one of 6 distinct zones that is supposed to make up this mega project. The other 5 were sports and outdoor world, ecotourism world. I don't even want to think what that is. Just like, here's a panda in your room. Have a good time. Just here, take this pile of bamboo, and we hope for the best.
Survivor Live.
We have themed and leisure entertainment world. We have retail and entertainment world. And then we have downtown. And I can't imagine with all of those other categories, what the hell would they put in downtown?
Just a Starbucks.
Yes, they have managed over the years to build a number of theme parks out there, Motion Gate and the like. But if they had gone according to plan, there would have been a Six Flags theme park out there. There would have been a Legoland theme park, a DreamWorks animation theme park, Paramount theme park. The one that has always fascinated me was the Marvel superhero theme park. Now, this is a standalone deal. This was not impacted by the master licensing agreement that MCA Recreation Service signed with the Marvel Entertainment Group in March of 94, which obviously cleared the runway for Superhero Island at Universal's Islands of Adventure in May of 99. Likewise, because Dubailand cut its deal with Marvel in May of 2008, it predated Disney's acquisition of Marvel in August of 2009. So Disney, as the new owners of Marvel, had to honor the contract. Mm-hmm. But 10 theme parks in all, with the crown jewel of this attraction supposedly being Universal Studios Dubai. And anyway, Universal Studios Dubailand officially gets announced April 30th, 2007. It's going to be a $2.2 billion collaboration between Universal and Tatweer, which is a subsidiary of Dubai Holdings. It's going to be a theme park and resort, which they'd hope would attract 5 million visitors annually, and with the idea that it would be completed and ready to open for business by December of 2010. For lack of a better term, it is the Universal highlight reel park. It tries to combine the best of all of the parks they had previously done. The way you enter the park was through the standard Universal Studios arch.
Sure. The
Main Street USA retail corridor was modeled after that section of Universal Studios Hollywood on the upper lot that stretches from like the ticket booths to the Universal Plaza. So that wonderful stucco studio look. But then when you get to the end of the retail corridor, you're suddenly standing in front of a lagoon that's modeled after Universal's Islands of Adventure Central Lagoon. And right across that lagoon, and again, it's just literally, we go with the playbook that works, is the Jurassic Park Visitor Center. So that's at the 12 o'clock position. And then it's just kind of fun, the variations on how they incorporate ideas. Like, for example, if you go to the left, starting at the 6 o'clock position, you enter this park's Hollywood Boulevard that pretty much is an on-model take on the Universal Studios Florida version of Hollywood Boulevard. In fact, there's a Mel Diner that's sitting right at the end of the street. But what's interesting is behind this, to the left, is the Fast and Furious coaster ride. Now, again, I said coaster, not Fast and Furious supercharged. In fact, if you can find the picture of the model, you can see this giant steel coaster, sort of, and it's hidden behind Hollywood Boulevard. So we continue around the park clockwise. Moving to the 10 o'clock position, we enter Legendary Heroes Land. Here, Universal Creative was planning on building a clone of Revenge of the Mummy, the ride, indoor roller coaster, first opened at Universal Studios back in May of 2004. Because this just closed last year in August, they were going to, another indoor entertainment they're going to do. They're going to do a clone of Universal Islands of Adventure's 8th Voyage of Sinbad. And then an outdoor water play area where, I swear to God, this is the name, King Tut's Oasis.
Wait, no, so they made a pun on King Tut?
Well, there we go.
Wow.
You got to work out your dad jokes where you can. Okay, 11 o'clock position. We have our Jurassic Park section of Dubailand.
Sure.
This park would not have gotten Jurassic Park the ride, but instead it would have gotten Jurassic Park Rapids Adventure, which, for those of you familiar with the Jurassic Park, Universal Studios Singapore, the ride system that they use for their Jurassic Park is basically the same one as Popeye and Bluto's Bilge Rat barges, which we should do that when we were down there, Dustin. We should get a group of gray people to basically wear shorts and T-shirts. I've always wanted to just go from every one of the water-based rides and islands and see how wet you can actually get. Go from Popeye to Dudley to the Jurassic River Adventure.
Yeah. For Popeye and Bluto's, that's actually where we go to get the best construction photos right now of the Jurassic Park coaster.
Yes.
But it's funny seeing people go on that ride and then do exactly what you're saying. They go over to Dudley's, and I just sit back and laugh. I go to the they have those machines where you can buy tokens. You put the tokens in, and then you spray everyone.
To be honest, if I'm putting money in machines, it'll be those giant industrial dryers that they have there down, to try to get dry again.
Yeah.
Okay, we mentioned the 12 o'clock position. We have our Jurassic Park Visitor Center. But if you go shift to the 1 o'clock position, we got another outdoor coaster. When you look at that coaster, what do you think of?
It's completely a King Kong.
Well,
coaster.
yeah,
Like,
but look at
it's-
the load hill. Look at the lift hill. Where have you seen that lift hill before? Okay, you're walking into Universal Studios Florida. It's on the left. It's big. It's tall.
It's Hollywood
had
Rip Ride
trouble
Rocket.
opening. There you go.
Yeah, which I still find completely overlooked experience at Universal Studios, but I get it.
All right, if you're walking to the entrance of Blue Man Group and coming off of a City Walk before the entrance to Universal Studios Florida, you can actually see where you would be able to get into Rip Ride Rocket from the Blue Man Group side as an attraction after hours. Because that initially was the plan. The idea was that they could shut down Universal Studios, the park, the Studios Florida, but they could still, for City Walk guests who were willing to pay, $4 or $5 a person, they could effectively backdoor them straight into Rip Ride Rocket. The way that coaster is laid out, when it comes all the way to the edge of City Walk, and how you can stand across the water and actually watch people ride on that thing, it's hidden in plain sight. And I mean, to be honest, I think the way they designed the coaster was more with the thought of, we have to get people who are in City Walk to see this and want to come over and pay to go do it, as opposed to people who are inside Universal who've already paid their admission to get to ride this.
Well, and that's why anytime you walk past, there's that. Okay, so not even when you walk past, when you're on the attraction, you go through all the thrills and the excitement, and then you kind of go into this section where you're like, why is this here? And that's because they take you out and give you that view of City Walk. In other words, give City Walk the view of you.
There you go.
But it was very interesting because when we look back, Universal Studios Florida didn't always close really late. So if the theme parks were closing at 8 or 9
or
7,
Yeah.
and then you had the guests that were at City Walk there until midnight or 1 or 2, why not give them that opportunity to? And did we ever get the cost? Was it going to be $2 or?
When Rip Ride Rocket opened in August of 2009, it was it was originally supposed to open Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And it had all sorts of tech issues and that sort of thing. And I think by the time they finally got it open, the folks at Universal were ready to put it in the rearview mirror. This was supposed to be their big attraction for the summer of 2009 because the very next year was the introduction of the Wizarding World. And when you're opening in late August, it's like you
missed the boat.
Have a week. Yeah, that's it exactly. So they kind of lost their enthusiasm for that idea, and they've never since revisited it. And the way it's designed was set up to appeal to City Walk because they were hoping they could get people, as you said, when the park closes at 7, you want to ride that thing? Sure. We can run it for another 3-4 hours, 5 hours, and, make some additional coin.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Kong. Once you look at that tower and realize, holy crud, they're repurposing Rip Ride Rocket for this park and throwing a Kong theme. And by the way, this is Kong, the Peter Jackson remake from 2005. Behind the Kong building, you see a giant show building. And when you step inside of the giant show building, it's an entirely enclosed section of New York City. And what's particularly cool about this is that inside this recreation of New York City, they would be the Blues Brothers would do their Blues Brothers review. They'd roll in the Bluesmobile. But for me as a Ghostbuster fan, what was truly cool is they were going to recreate the firehouse. If you were going to go on the Ghostbuster ride they were going to do for Dubai, you had to enter through the firehouse that's in Tribeca.
Yeah, that's
at
in
the
New
corner
York.
of Moore Street and Varick. And it just sort of, it's like, I love that they were going to do that building.
Yeah.
To complete our trip around the clock face here, at the 3 o'clock position, we would have had Surf City. This is the Fantasyland equivalent of Universal Studios Dubai, Dustin. Here, they would have taken that Woody Woodpecker nut house coaster that they have in that area between E.T. and Barney at Universal Studios Florida. But Universal acquired the international rights to the Sesame Street characters back in the early 2000s. This is why they opened the Sesame Street 4D movie magic attraction at Universal Studios in Japan back in April of 2003. But inside another giant air-conditioned building, there were supposed to be 3 separate Sesame Street-themed ride shows and attractions. So there's your whole Universal Studios Dubai, supposed to open December 2010. They were already sort of sussing out what they were going to expand with. And for phase 2, one of the things they were looking at was bringing in a clone of Waterworld, a live sea war spectacular.
Yeah, it looks like it was going right in behind, or right in between Sinbad and Jurassic Park.
Yeah. And when I think of Waterworld, I think of the Kevin Costner movie that didn't work.
Sure.
But the thing is, that same year, Universal wants to replace its Miami Vice stunt show. Mm-hmm. And so they decide, okay, we got this Waterworld thing we're putting out. Let's bring that in. And this show, it almost in spite of the movie, it's been so ridiculously popular, especially with foreign visitors to Universal Studios Hollywood, that they built a clone for Universal Studios Japan, opened in March of 2001. And then when Singapore opened, it got its own clone of Waterworld. That was March of 2010. So the thinking is, if it was popular in Hollywood and Japan and Singapore, we got to bring it to Dubai. You know, if only because every so often someone in the audience gets splashed and they cool down because it's 97 degrees at 1 o'clock in the morning. Every single thing in this park, with the exception of Ghostbusters and Sesame Street, were Universal-owned properties. The financial model this time around was like, look, let's not blow our dough on licensing deals. And I find that fascinating because they're doing this while they're building the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. So it's hard not to read between the lines here and go, God, we are paying a lot for Harry Potter.
Yeah, all those butter beers.
Yeah, but let's figure out how to make that one cheaply.
Yeah.
And anyway, on the back of this, in August of 2007, Universal announces they're in on Dubailand. It's a land rush. January 2008, DreamWorks Animation announces they're building a theme park there. March of 2008, Six Flags indicates they're in with a $6 million square foot park. May of 2008, May 2nd of 2008, Marvel announces they're in.
Yeah.
And then 4 days later, Merlin jumps in and says, hey, we're going to build a Legoland. Universal is out in front. In fact, Universal is so far out in front, they break ground in July of 2008. That's the other thing when you Google Universal Studios Dubai, you get to see the arch that they built.
Yeah, they built the arch. They have all the cranes. They have like the official Universal City Dubailand, all the signs, everything. They have a sales center.
They do. I mean, they were ready to go. They finished the arch fall of 2008. And those of you who remember your financial history about what was going on in the mortgage bubble and what was happening with banking in 2008 was a disaster, worldwide financial crisis. And as a direct result, the very banks that the folks who were building Dubailand were financing this park were like, whoa, maybe we want to slow down for a moment. And so suddenly Universal Studios Dubai goes from a December 2010 opening to a December of 2012. They built the arches first, and then they built an administration building next to it and the sales center. Because again, they were showing, we're confident, we're in, we're all in on this project. But meanwhile, Tawir company got this thing started in 2003, has to reorganize due to the financial crisis, and it takes several years to sort all that out. And so there's no activity on Universal Studios Dubai worksite at all. You just
the camels moved in. Let's be honest. Some of the photos are just like, hey, look, there's an arch. Hey, look, there's a camel.
People who lived in Dubai, evidently, they had built this thing on the road to Al Inn Road, which you take to get to the outlet mall. Everyone was very aware that there was nothing going on because they were driving back and forth at the outlet mall, looking out. Then in January of 2011, Comcast buys NBC Universal for $30 billion. 3 months later, they sit down with the folks at Dubai Properties Group. They're what the company is reorganized to. Yeah. And it's like, look, we'd really like to get this thing going. We've had our arch built for 3 years, and is this actually going to happen? April of 2011, we're in the middle of the Arab Spring. And, there were all of these demonstrations and rebellions going on in the Middle East. And lots of people are nervous and kind of like, can we hold off on making a decision about this or till people stop rioting in the streets? Fall of 2012, things seem to have calmed down. The ruler of Dubai says, okay, we're going ahead with a reimagined version of Dubailand, only now... Universal, how would you feel about not a whole theme park, but say a family entertainment center? Comcast is like, okay, this may get our foot in the door in the United Arab Emirates, so okay, we're kind of on board. And again, it keeps getting delayed. And to show that we're really excited to be in this territory, that's actually why they shot Furious 7 in Abu Dhabi. They're over there in November of 2013. It's like, look what we could bring to this region. This sort of entertainment, this sort of excitement. And Dubailand keeps getting stalled out. And finally, Comcast is like, look, we're tired of waiting.
Yeah.
So October of 2016, Universal Parks and Resorts announces they're severing ties with the Dubailand project. The Universal Arch along Al Inn Road out by the outlet mall, quietly gets pulled down.
And put on eBay.
They have what is known as the Universal Studios Dubailand, I want to say it's media advertisement.
Sure.
And it's a minute long. It's folks in authentic Arab garb, but they're in Universal Studios Florida. But again, they're in a Universal Studios Florida that they're shooting to sell Dubailand. They show these people eating, the shopping, and having the time of their lives. But it touches on everything they wanted to do in the park. So that you see them in the theater watching Sinbad. You see them, riding, a Jurassic Park attraction. But for me, what especially kind of jumps out is the clunky catchphrase at, the end of this thing, which is Universal Studios Dubailand. The world's most exciting experience comes to the most exciting place. And everybody knows that the most exciting place in the world is the Universal Orlando Resort, where you and I, with the help of some very nice folks at Storybook Destinations, will be hosting a holiday-themed event this November. And
so excited for this, and I think that anyone who loves Universal and loves the history that Jim provides, and obviously my jokes and trip planning and that kind of stuff, honestly, I am probably the fan that will be hanging out with everyone as they are on Dudley Do Rights. I'll be on the bridge with probably a donut in hand from Voodoo Donuts, just, encouraging everyone to enjoy. Because we are going in November. So it's November 15th through until Monday, November the 18th. All of the information is over at storybookdestinations.com. Up at the top of the website, they have a Jim Hill /Disney Dish button. Just press on that, and it'll take you to all of the information, including, where we're staying, what we're doing, all the different experiences, not only at Universal Studios Florida, but Islands of Adventure. And, the fact that we're getting there within days of the Christmas and holiday experiences coming up. It's going to be a perfect time, and there's no better way to think about Christmas than booking something in July.
all right. Good job.
I do what I can. But at the end of the day, there's things on this itinerary that are probably the most exciting for fans of Jim, of yourself, doing a walk-around tour of Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure. That right there is something where you just want to be a part of. I'm excited for that.
So I guess that brings us to the close of yet another Universal Joint here podcast here, folks. And we'll be back soon with another show. But until that happens, Dustin, where can they find you online?
Yeah, so they can find me over at stepstomagic.com, trip planning, Disney Universal. I'm also on the We Like Theme Parks podcast, which Disney and Universal nerds talking about Disney and Universal stuff. So we like to have fun over there. And yeah, I'm all over the place, Pinterest, Instagram, less Twitter, but I go to Twitter to see what Jim's up to.
Okay. My side of the fence, the Disney podcast that I do with Len Testa, the Fine Tuning podcast that I do with Drew Taylor, the looking at Lucasfilm podcasts that I do with Dan Z, please head over to iTunes and rate and recommend our shows. If you get head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be very helpful. Thanks for listening, folks, and we will be back with a new show soon.
It's been groovy having you hang with us for the Universal Joint. Tune in again for this and other great podcasts found on the Jim Hill Media Network.